Hey everybody, it's Gail, and today I have one single sock. Ooh, it's so pretty. So this sock is made with Nipix Chroma, and you start with an E-hook, and you start at the top, and you work the ribbing, and then the first few rows with an E-hook, and then you switch to a D-hook for the rest of it. The heel is made as you go. It is not an afterthought heel. And then you just work the foot and do a bunch of decreases at the toe to make your little toe pouch. So it's a fairly simple design. I've made socks. It's been a long, long time since I've made socks. But it's a fairly simple sock. And there's a reason I only made one, which I will get to in a moment. But let's talk about the book it came from. So the book it came from is Crocheted Socks. And this was by Janet Redfelt and Mary Jane Wood. This was published by Martingale in 2003. And it's out of print, and it's been out of print for a while. I actually owned it for a long time and never made socks because I was a little scared. And I gave it away because I wasn't using it. And then I decided, oh no, I really do want to learn to make socks. So I had to track it down again because I really liked it. And Martingale went out of business in 2023, and Martingale was a craft publisher. They did cookbooks, crochet books, sewing, embroidery, knitting, quilting. And I want to encourage you, if you have any Martingale books and you have access to a scanner, I would love if you would scan your books and put them on archive.org, because these books are out of print. They're not going to be back in print most likely because Martingale is out of business. And so I think it's very important that craft books get digitized and put places people can get a hold of them, because otherwise we lose those books. So I will be at some point sitting down and scanning this and getting it uploaded where people can get a hold of it. And it is a little, I admit, it's a little gray in the copyright area, but there is some precedence with abandonware. So if a company puts out a piece of software, and this is especially important in video games, where games will just, they'll be out for a long time, they'll get updates for a long time, and then they don't. And there is actually a special category of copyright allowance that says that even if you are not the copyright holder, if the company is gone or the company has said they're no longer going to provide any services for a game, that game is considered abandonware. That game can be put on the internet for free. And so there's actually at least one website that's dedicated to sort of gathering up all of these old games that, just aren't in print anymore. And so while we don't have that exact rule for out of print craft books, I think we should. And I think a good way to start that conversation is to get these books somewhere where they're going to be safe. And that is archive.org, which, because it's an archive, meets the requirements of this abandonware policy of put it up for free, keeping it just to have the record of it, not selling it to anybody. So that's my big recommendation. And so now that I've given you my pitch about why we should all be archiving, let's go back to the sock. The reason I only made one sock is because I was using Nipix Chroma, which is a wool and nylon blend, and I knew that wool and nylon is kind of the go-to for making socks. Like, you want about 70% wool, 30% nylon, something in there, because the nylon gives a little stretchiness. The wool, of course, will be breathable. It will wick the sweat away, but also keep you warm, quality material. And I had this one nearly done, and I had 2 skeins left. And I was like, well, I need at least half of the next skein to make a second sock, and then I wanted to make a pair for Sean with the 3rd skein plus any left over. I'm like, I would rather have one more full skein just to cover my bases, because his feet are a little bigger than mine, and I wouldn't want to run out. And so I was doing a big yarn order anyway, so I hopped on Knitpicks and I clicked sock yarn, because I was like, well, that's the fastest way to get to it. Knitpick Chroma is not listed as a sock yarn, which is really funny because they do have a sock pattern in knitting, I think it is. But what's even funnier is when I looked it up just to find out why it's not a good sock yarn, I actually found the knitting community on Reddit explaining why it's not a good sock yarn. So the fact that The knitting community knows, it seems Knit Picks knows, but they still have this sock pattern. I don't know, man. Like, I think it's an independent designer. I don't think it's Knit Picks in particular, so maybe someone found the secret to making it work. So the problem with this as a sock yarn is that it apparently felts really, really easily, and you don't want your socks to felt. So chroma is not going to be a good sock yarn for you. Any of the actually labeled sock yarns on Knit Picks should be fine. Anything labeled sock yarn at a craft store should be fine. That's really like the big thing about it, is like there is a reason. And I did see some of the knitters be like, well, you have to hand wash this because it's not superwash, the chroma. The other sock yarns are superwash, so you should be able to just launder those according to the label. I personally am not worried about whether or not I have to hand wash socks, because I hand wash most of my handmade shit anyway, so what's a pair of socks? Honestly, I just wear however much I can in the shower, run it cool for a few minutes while I get it all real wet and like get the smells out of it, and then I lay it flat to dry. That is how I hand wash my stuff. But I still wanted to show you this single sock, even though it does not have a match, because one, I made a sock and I'm really proud of myself. Two, to talk about the archive thing, but also three, like, it's fun. I think I might actually like put little eyes on it and drop it off. There's a little free library up the road that is specifically for kids. So I think I might like put little eyes on it so it can be a proper sock puppet, because I feel like that's a good life for it, since I'm not going to make it a match. You will probably see more socks coming. I know you will, definitely. I'm working on a pair for a cosplay right now. Not the Big Barda cosplay. I'm doing a different cosplay. I went a little cosplay mad. Oops. And yeah, so that's my sock. I'm very proud of it. It really did come out well. I was very, very proud of it. The pattern is very good. Had a couple of moments where I was a little confused on terminology, but I asked Sean and he was able to give me his interpretation, which I'm like, oh, there we go. I don't consider that errata. That's just my brain. And I don't think anybody else is really going to have that problem. My big problem was it said start the toe decreases 2 inches from your longest toe, and I took it to mean 2 inches from the bottom of my toe. And I said, what does this mean to you? And Sean goes, well, you start 2 inches from the top of your foot at your toes. I'm like, oh, so it's stuff like that. Yeah, that's it for this one. Nice, pretty sock. As always, if you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff. And I will see you when I see you.